Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health and your Wednesday morning rise and shine. And this morning here, we're looking at the topic understanding the game, then make your best effort. And this understanding the game and making your best effort. And outside for you two examples here this morning of understanding some of the things that you're up against when it comes on to natural health that is outside of your control to a certain degree. And then after you understand this, then the next thing for you to do is to make your best effort. So we want to give you two articles here dealing with two different subject matter and understanding the struggles that you face and what you have to do and the efforts that you have to put forward. So God bless you again. Good morning. Hopefully you had a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on today. Thanks for joining me. Let us pray. Thank you, Father, again for the love that you bestow in our hearts. We thank you for rest. We thank you for the wisdom that you give us to be able to not only interact with nature, but to be able to comply with the laws of nature that we might be healthier. May you bless us, dear Lord, as we look into these things. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, we're looking here at this topic, understanding the game, then make your best effort. And so there's a game that we all have to deal with. We have no choice in the matter. This is just how things are here. So when you understand this game and understand the struggles that you have to deal with and I have to deal with, then it makes it easier for you to be able to navigate. And so, as I say, we have two examples. I'm going to look here on this topic, understand the game, and then make your effort. And so I'm going to jump in here with the first one. And this is here from Mother Jones, and this is talking about and it's the article. I have two articles here. So the first article is Trump's EPA green lights this pesticide linked to brain damage, and 8 senators are fighting back. A new bill would put the agriculture ban on chloropyrifos, chlorpyrifos. So this is something that we have covered. I'd cover this in a health talk one of the Wednesday mornings in the past about this pesticide called chlorpyrifos, and it was a problem that came up, I think, in May or June in California. And so I'm not going to go over in all the details, but that's something that we are covered before here. And so this chemical cause nausea and various different other problems with the brain, or various problems with the brain. So on Tuesday, 2 senators introduced a bill that would ban a pesticide linked to brain damage in kids. The legislation would do what the Environmental Protection Agency had long planned to before EPA Chief Scott Pruitt denied the agency's own proposal in March. Pruitt's move was widely considered a signal from the Trump administration on its intent to relax environmental regulations. The new bill called Protect Children, Farmers and Farm Workers from Nerve Agent Pesticide Act Pesticide Act of 2017 was introduced by Tom Udall of New Mexico and has 7 other co-sponsors, including California Senator Kamala Harris. About a fifth of the chlorpyrifos used in the U.S. is used on crops in California. So this is the main place that chlorpyrifos are used. And so this would be the reason why Kamala Harris would be signing on to it. Even if a federal ban the pesticide largely manufactured by a subsidiary of Dow Chemical is classified as a neurotoxin by the Center for Disease Control and is known to interfere with human hormone. Studies have found strong evidence that it could cause a lower IQ or increase the risk of autism in young children. Chlorpyrifos is sprayed on corn and soybeans in the Midwest and fruit and vegetable crops in the Southeast, Washington State, and California. Shortly after the EPA greenlighted the pesticide last spring, farmers in Southern California experienced nausea, vomiting after being exposed to drift from a nearby field. Even if a federal ban doesn't pass, groups in California are calling on state officials to create a statewide ban. Earlier this month, district attorney in 6 states filed a suit challenging the EPA's decision. Congress must act because Administrator Pruitt has shown that he won't, Udall said in a statement. The science hasn't changed since EPA proposed banning chlorpyrifos in 2015 and 2017. Only the politics have changed. So basically, there was a proposed ban for chlorpyrifos, and then new administration come into town, and then all of a sudden, the proposed ban is everything has changed on that, and it's gone into use. As I said before, one of the main places is used. 1/5 of all this chemical is used on vegetables and fruits in California. And so this is a chemical that even recently when I covered this, I think it was last month or the month before, that this chemical caused, it just drifted from one field to the next. They were spraying it in one field, it drifted, and it caused sickness of a good amount of over probably a dozen farm workers. So here is an example again of what I would use now as understanding the game and making it your best effort. So what the game is now, I would say, and I'll go to the Bible a little bit, but what the game is simply you understand that if you ever deal with even the garden, that it's difficult to try to, grow crops. And it has its inherent problem because of weeds and also because of pests. These two things creates a lot of problem. And that's not added to the problem of the nutrient in the soil and all that other things, because many times you're growing on soil that is not very doesn't have a lot of nutrients. So you have those basic challenges that you're facing. And with those challenges that you face, or anyone face when doing farming or agriculture, even a small scale, that it takes a lot of effort. But part of the thing is that in order to produce these crops, you can get some result by using poisons, and the poisons will either poison off the weed. So this is where you come up with many of these genetically engineered crops and genetically engineered products, or products designed to be able to poison the weeds and not poison the vegetables that you're trying to grow. Also, part of the game, as I said, just part of the reality of life, in other words, is that these chemicals that we use to poison off the insects and the weeds and stuff like that, they're poison, and so they're going to poison us. So you have a lot of struggle just to grow the crop itself. And when you understand this, you understand that growing a crop becomes a problem. So so there's one group that say, look, it is what it is. You got to do what you have to do, and without any nefarious reasons, I really want to cause harm. It's just the reality of it is that you're up against a lot, and you're trying to basically get rid of weeds, get rid of the weeds and get rid of the pests. And then even after you do that, you still have to figure out how do you nourish the soil so that the crops can go bountifully. And that adds to the next problem, which is lack of nourishment or nutrients in the soil. You got to add it to. So again, here comes the chemicals. You can't add it fast in large quantities, and then you get food. So part of the problem understanding the game is that this is what the farmers are up against. And here comes the chemical industry. So we will give you these things logically so that you can do farming, not just farming on a small scale in your backyard, but on a large scale. So this is what happens. So now when this happened now, you have these foods that are chemical filled. The nourishment of the food is chemical. The protection for the food, so that the food can come to maturity, is chemicals. And there's residue of these chemicals, and they come on the plants. And then if the animals eat or graze or drink the water, then it gets into the fat of the animals. And you're up against that. And when you understand this is just part of life. And there's options to grow, other ways to grow the foods. that we eat. But these are the easiest way and the most profitable ways. And so when you understand that kind of game, when you understand that this is just part of life as people are responding to what I call thorns and thistles, the difficulty of doing anything. And you can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way. The easy way comes with some negative results. The hard way is that you're going to get some negatives, but the negatives are going to be reduced. So this is why I said to you, understand the game and then make your best effort. Some people are not willing to make the effort. Some people are like, man, just throw the chemical on it. Just poison everything off. And then turn around and eat the food and say, well, you're gonna die one day some way. So what's the big deal? We're all gonna die anyhow. But I'm not forward to believe that. I believe that yes, I recognize the difficulty that the farmer has. I recognize the difficulty to do anything in this life takes a lot of effort and is a lot of pests, both socially, human pests, real pests. But it doesn't mean that because these difficulties exist that you're going to just throw in the towel and say, well, I'm going to die one day. Because if you notice with chlorpyrifos is that it reduces your IQ and it increases the chances of a child having autism. So it damages the DNA, damages the body at the cellular level. And that's where part of the problem is. So somebody could say, oh no, we're gonna all die one day, so what makes that effort? They could just be saying that because they're eating vegetables and animals with chlorpyrifos, and their IQ has been reduced by the chemical, and so it is making them talk silly. It could just simply be as that. It's just too much chemical in their system. Because remember, we are at a cellular level. We are like little insects, so to speak, at that level. We have flora, and all it is just little bacteria, that are microscopic to a certain degree. And so we depend upon the little stuff. We are a cell. We go down to the cellular level. And so, yes, you might take a teaspoon of some of these things would kill us, but you might take a small dosage of a certain poison and you won't drop dead, but you're being killed at a cellular level. So although your eyes can't see what's going on, it doesn't mean that it's not going on. And it doesn't mean that you're not getting the result of it. It doesn't mean that your brain is not being fried by all these chemicals. So because somebody eat a plate of pesticide-filled vegetables and some meat and some carbohydrates just filled with pesticide, and after they finish eating it, they keel over and drop dead after they eat it, for the most part, it doesn't mean that they did not burn off some of their brain cells. And then because that brain cell is burnt off, now they listen to me and they say, I ain't listening to him. That's just too much effort. And they're saying that not based upon their real reasonability, but they're saying that from a deficiency because the chlorpyrifos has reduced their IQs. And because their IQ is reduced now, their level of intelligence and reasoning is just not there. And they just keep burning off cell until one day they die. And they say, well, I have one life to live, but that's you live in a lower level life because of the chemicals you're eating every day. So I believe personally that you make the effort, you understand the game that is being played, and then you make your best effort. But don't say, I'm going to be like the farmers and not make my best effort. Don't say I'm going to be cheap and put more money, which I've seen people do this, put more money into a car than they put into their physical bodies. They spend more money on the thing that drives them around than the thing that they live in, that they are. And so I believe that says you put more money into your body and just spend the extra money and get the stuff that doesn't have the chemicals. Because understand, the farmers are basically up against a lot. Nature is just throwing a lot of stuff at them. The bugs and the beetles and all the things that eat the plants. The weeds are giving them problem. All these different things, and so they just say, man, just poison everything off. But that poison is coming back at them when they're dying of cancer. Because I've met people who have gone through that, or they're I've been a pastor who bury these type of guys all the time. And you live many of the life sick with all kind of weird diseases that are based upon the chemicals they're using. So don't just say to yourself, well, it's just too much effort. Well, the Lord give us brain and He give us muscle. And that tells us that effort is just something that human beings can make, and you can make the effort to take care of your body. Now I'm going to read these two texts. I'm going to read this text to you to start off. And this text here, before I go to my next article, I want to expand. Remember, I mentioned some things to you here in the last 16 minutes. And I want to kind of expand the thought and go to where I'm getting this from as part of the game. Understand that human beings are up against a lot, and human beings cheat to get ahead. Now, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 17 through 19, Genesis 3, verse 17 through 19 says, And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened to the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. So, in sorrow. So the part of the game is this text here. This text here is a brutal text when you read it, because the reality is you're going to eat of the fruit of the ground, and you're going to eat of it in sorrow all the days of your life. It don't matter if somebody say, I don't eat fruits or vegetables. I eat meat. It's sorrow. Say I don't want to pay the higher price because that's sorrow for me to pay. It's pain for me to pay more money for foods that are naturally grown. Well, you're gonna eat sorrow because your sorrow is gonna eat this pesticide. You're not gonna really escape. This text here, I've analyzed it for all these years, and I've never seen anybody get around this text. You have to choose the difficulty that you're gonna have to deal with. It's just a choice. And somebody might say, well, your choice seemed harder. It seems, but I don't think it's harder because I've lived on both sides of the aisles. I've lived in ignorance where I didn't understand what all this pesticide food and chemical poison food does to you. And so I lived in that food, and I have the results, and I have some of the long-term residual results, even though my health is much better to me than when I was in my 20s. But some of the results are residual. Because of them, you can damage certain things in your body that you can't get back. Or they just don't operate at the same level. But if you understand, it's a choice. Now, again, I know what it is like to pick up some grapes or pick up some strawberries and eat it and just have an allergic reaction or a sinus reaction immediately, within minutes of eating it. And I know that says I'm going to eat. It's either I'm going to pay a little bit extra, or if I'm doing gardening, I'm going to do extra work. I just accept the reality, accept my punishment, so to speak, and just work with the program. And I get a better result from, say, you know what, man, it's going to be hard work either way. So let's do it the harder way. But the chemical poisons, I don't see them as being better, because I know human being concept, and I've people argue with me on this before. Human being concept is that many of these curses are totally lifted with the chemicals. I don't really believe that. Because the problem is, as I've covered here, the Roundup and the various different chemicals like that, where they genetically engineer the crop to not be killed by the chemical, is not as effective as when they were originally launched, because the weeds are getting drug resistant. And so the weeds are not being affected. But the problem is they're still using it, and the human beings are being affected. And they're affected negatively. So although they say, well, yeah, we get we get more crop yield when we use this chemical. But the result is that we have more chemical on the crops. And these chemicals, a lot of times, if you study them, they're neurological chemicals. So they'll say, well, are these things affecting people's weight? Are they affecting people in various different ways? But I think the one question they have not really asked and investigate are these chemicals frying the brains of the human beings that are eating it? And my answer for that is yes. The people IQ is being lowered. and their brains are being destroyed. And so that's really what's going on. And we have not looked into this enough. So when you understand what's going on, you understand the reason why people play the game they're playing is because the difficulty in doing any business, period, plus in farming is the same thing. You go out there, see a land, you say, oh, let's just farm the land. No, there's going to be some difficulties. There's going to be some pests, there's something that you have to deal with. It has going to farm, but it's just going to come up to you and everything's going to be good. There's going to be weeds that are trying to suck all the nutrients out of the soil. There's going to be all kind of things you're dealing with. And you can say, well, I'm going to fight it naturally and make my best effort, or I'm just going to douse it with some chemicals and be done with it. Not so. Don't work like that. You're not done with that chemical. That chemical go in the ground, destroy the groundwater. That chemical get into the plants. The cows eat it concentrated in the body. People eat the cows, they get sick with all kind of neurological diseases. Notice that most of the diseases that we're facing that nowadays that is strange are these immune deficiency diseases, not immune deficiency diseases, but the diseases that the immune system attack itself. These are the type of diseases we're looking at, and these diseases are scary. And so when you look at that, why is the immune system attacking itself? Why does the immune system see the whole body as foreign and attack the body? Because again, I believe the body is just filled with all kind of dangerous chemicals. So when you understand that your game, or the game that is given to us, is that you're going to have some difficulty in life. And you have to choose your beatings, your difficulty, what challenge you go up against. But there will be challenge. Life is not going to be easy or hunky-dory. If you want health, you're going to have to do slow food. Slow food demands some effort. And so that's just the reality. And I've known people like, oh, I don't believe in that. Nowadays, they're looking at stem cell research. And many people believe stem cell research will fix all the problems. We will see, but I don't believe that. Now, verse 18, thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. So here the Bible gives us an intimation. The Bible says the moment sin came into being, herbs was introduced into man's diet. And today that's part of our solution. To be the best solution for sickness is herb, because herbs have concentrated nutrients. And the concentrated nutrients, especially in the barks and leaves of the plant and the roots of the plant, becomes for our healing and becomes for the high potency nutrients that we need when we're deficient. So the herbs of the field, and this is why I believe. Somebody said, "Why would you believe that? Why don't you believe that stem cell is the next miracle?" Because stem cell doesn't fix nutrients. No matter how much stem cell you pump into a person's body, if they're deficient, they're just deficient. They gotta get food. And verse 19, the sweat of thy face shall thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, and from out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. So that's the game. From birth until death, that's our game. We're going to have to sweat. So you can say, well, I'm not going to sweat. I'm going to get some chemicals. I'm just going to get some of these chlorpyrifos. I'm going to spray it on the field. So then all the people that work on the field, their IQ become reduced. All the people that spray, the owner, the people that live near the farm, they damage their brain with these neurotoxins. And then now the people eat the food, they damage their brain. And I'm saying this because I don't even question this anymore. This is rock solid for me. This is being scientifically proven. So there's no question in my mind what's going on now. When I deal with individuals, as I say, it's like a sliding scale. The more people eat junk food and cheap food, the cheaper the food is, the more people seem like they have a brain problem. And I have a brain problem. Brain just don't turn over anymore. And I've seen it over and over again. So you understand this game and understand what you're up against. That there's people out there that just really believe in these chemicals and believe that's the solution to fix the difficulties of farming. And not contemplating primarily that this is killing their own fellow men, including themselves. So you have to understand how they play the game, and you have to make your best effort to try to avoid these chemical foods. If you're doing gardening or whatever you're doing, try to do it naturally with plant-based, without the chemicals, because the people who are putting out these chemicals and approving these chemicals, even the people working for the EPA, which is strange that the people working for the EPA would not care, just put out these stuff, approve these things. They don't care. They're eating the junk food. And so you have to be careful and not swallow what they're giving to you and say, oh, well, the EPA approve it. That don't mean nothing. They're dangerous chemical. If the chemical cause neurological problem, you just can't say, well, because the government approve it. That doesn't work anymore. That's was worked when everybody was in ignorance and believed that the government is great and everything is fine with the government. So you understand the game, but understand that you have to protect yourself and be wise enough to not swallow every pill that is given to you. All right, so I'm gonna move on to our next article to elaborate a little bit more this point about that. We have some difficulties, and you have to be careful in this world, as I say, not believe if it says FDA approve or EPA approve. That doesn't mean much. Actually, that a lot of time means stay away from it. Now, this article now is taken from USA Today. This was yesterday, and it's entitled 45 Years Ago, the Nation Learned About the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Its repercussions are still felt today. So you're familiar with this, right? This is the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm sure you heard about this, that the Tuskegee Airmen were exposed to syphilis. They were given syphilis, and by the researchers that were researching syphilis, and they didn't know what they were given. And this basically something that happened a few decades ago. So 45 years ago, it was made aware. So this is a very famous study that is used to explain sometimes what the government, your own government, can do to you. And so, again, when you understand the game and understand the craziness of human beings to approve things that will destroy your brain or destroy your life, then you have to take heed. All right, and take heed well. So anyhow, let's get into the article. It was 45 years ago, Tuesday, when the nation first learned about the horrors of a federal-funded experiment on unsuspecting African Americans with syphilis in rural Alabama, a study whose repercussions are still being felt today. Medical researchers and providers withheld treatment from about 400 black men in Tuskegee, Alabama, from 1932 to 1972 in order to study the course of the untreated disease. Researchers did not obtain informed consent from these men, nor did they tell them they were not being treated for syphilis. Instead, the men were told they were being treated for bad blood. Even when penicillin became the drug of choice for treating syphilis in 1945, researchers did not offer it to them. Tuskegee burst into the public consciousness when the Associated Press published a story exposing the study on July 25th, which is yesterday in 1972. Outrage ensued, the study ended, and then men filed a lawsuit the following year, resulting in a $9 million settlement in 1974. President Clinton issued a formal apology on behalf of the U.S. government in 1997. So those were the dates. More from the article in a second. So if you understand what's going on here, so from 1932, so this is in the time in the South, Jim Crow time. This is a time where still blacks were treated as less than human beings, and they were in the system. They became part of the government, and the government, those who, if you think about it, Alabama back then would hate them, did this to them for all these many years. And then the Associated Press broke the story in 1972. So think about that and think about what I'm talking about. Understand the game, and you have to make your best effort. Because the Associated Press broke this story. But this is the one that the Associated Press break. For me, I always believe that things always multiply, in a different way. Not in a downward way, but in an upward way. If they broke one, there are many that they didn't break. they didn't, release or find out about. And if they're doing this to these men, and we have showed over the years that when it comes out to many chemicals and medicine, that they should have never been on the market, because it was known that these medicine like telemina, I was trying to forget the name, but various different medicines that cause various different dangerous bodily harm, then one has to be very careful and make your best effort, because you understand it's the human beings you're dealing with. The human beings are crazy. And they'll actually not only do it to you, but they'll do it to their own self. So again, this was the one that Associated Press broke. So we keep reading here, back to the article. Tuskegee has been held up as one reason for the continued distrust between the black community and health providers and medical researchers. Tuskegee plays a significant role in the mindset of the African American community, says Lawrence J. Progress Jr., a physician and adjunct professor at the Center for Clinical Bioethics at Georgetown University Medical Center, who has written extensively about the Tuskegee syphilis study. It's made a significant impact of distrust within the community that still lingers today. Freddie Lee Tyson was one of the men enrolled in the study. His daughter, Lily Tyson Head, is the chairwoman of the Voice of Our Fathers Legacy Foundation, which represents the descendants of the men who were in the Tuskegee study and works to preserve and share their life stories. She said the study still affects how she views the healthcare field. And that's important. I'm going to pause here again. Just think about this before I get into a little bit more from the article. That even back then in the 1930s, you could not get proper medical care from just a regular hospital if you were African American. So here they were getting care because they were part of the government, and they were told that they were just being treated for bad blood. But what was happening for those 40 years is that from young men until old men, basically, they were being observed to see how much damage the syphilis does or did inside of their bodies. Fascinating stuff. So these are medical staff, which the article is going to cover in a second. Your regular doctor in white coat, you go to him every day, and he's just there to watch you and watch the disease just ravage and destroy your body, and makes observation, and then gonna say to his regular community, I'm doing this for the advancement of science. Right? They didn't do it on a pig or a goat or a mice. They do it on human beings, and they watch human beings suffer day in, day. This is us. How? So when you understand that game, and then I come to you now and say, you need to be careful of the pests and the poisons and the various different drugs you put in your body. Do natural. And you look at me and say, I'm weird, or I'm fanatical, or I'm extreme. Actually, I'm smiling now. I just smile. I say, look, all we can do in this life is make the best effort, but be careful you're not making the best effort to be a fool. Because there are people out there that is either so believing that you should be a guinea pig and be experimented on, or hate you so much that they'll experiment on you, that you have to be careful whatever poisons you put in your body and thinking that you're trying to fix a disease. Because there's human beings that will watch you suffer for 40 years and don't even think anything of it, don't even bat an eye, from 1932 to 1972, just watching men suffer. So get that in your mind. So when people say, oh, that person is a quack, just think about that. All right, just think about that. I wouldn't even answer that. Just think about it. When somebody say, oh, that person is extreme, they believe in eating their veggies, eating their spinach and broccoli organic. Think about that. And we're back to our article here. The fact that the study was carried out by professionals that had the code of ethics and the swearing of healing and helping and aiding has made her think twice about trusting healthcare providers, she said. The study ended decades ago, but Head said it still has an impact on how your feelings are and how you trust is towards health professionals. Added, she sometimes feel apprehension about whether she's being told the truth. In 1974, Congress signed the National Research Act into law, creating the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research and establishing ethical guidelines for research involving humans. Today, human subjects in research studies have rights that ensure their autonomy, including informed consent and the right to leave a study at any time and for any reason. Every new study must also be reviewed and approved by an institutional review board, which goes over the study's protocol and determine whether its ethical standards pass muster. So you understand this again. So again, just take this in mind where somebody would say, "Oh, you could be making too much effort to be careful of what type of drugs you take and be saying encouraging like if I'm encouraging a person say, hey, look, I understand you can keep treating whatever disease you have with whatever drug, but why don't you just put more effort into eating a more natural diet, taking some herbal remedies, exercising, and a person like that, I ain't gonna do that. Well, okay, but you just think about it. Even though they say now that the regular process, even when you're experimenting with human beings and testing diseases and stuff on human beings, you have to go through an institutional review board. This is better and is much more improved. I will agree with that. But still, that brings to my mind the fact that think about all these men that were illegally put on death row. And think about it that they were put on death row and the police had to falsely imprison them. The prosecutor had to falsely try to prosecute them. The judge had to go along with it. All the clerks, all the various different state, all the way up to the state governor, all these people had to be involved in a massive system to basically lock up all these men and put them behind bars. So it was not just one person, it was a whole institution that was meant to keep the prison industrial complex stuck and still today exists in many places, many of these rural areas which the inbred behavior is ingrained. And because everybody's family member to each other. So when you think about that and you understand that, you understand, this idea that they're asking in the article, why is it that people, why would it be in African Americans they're so distrustful of the medical system? Well, you could understand it's not just the medical system that was doing this to them, and to me still doing this, is the whole structure of America. The whole structure of America where somebody just sees you, and the moment they sees you, you just messed up their day. Just looking at you, just messed up their day. That to me is part of the system. So you understand that it was happening not only in the medical system, but in the prison system or the judicial system. It was happening all over. Then you could understand why a group of people could be so distrustful. I understand. It makes sense to me. Continuing from the article here, a little bit more to go. It says, but many still feel uneasy about being part of a clinical research. Van R. Newkirk II, a writer for The Atlantic who is black, wrote in a 2016 piece that he doesn't remember how he learned about Tuskegee. It was just always there. Like my innate discomfort around police and my knowledge of how to act in mixed company, the Tuskegee study, and an anxiety about a malevolent medical system became part of my language for navigating and understanding the world from the earliest, and I didn't really have a choice in the matter, he wrote. Newkirk went on to describe how Tuskegee shaped his current beliefs about medicine and health more than he cares to admit. Even after studying public health as an undergraduate and working as a research assistant to Dr. Bill Jenkins, one of the CDC whistleblowers who called attention to the Tuskegee study and later managed the participants' health benefit program for survivors. I still have trouble trusting physicians and have declined participation in some health studies that probably would have been useful to me, Newkirk wrote. My weariness still comes after years of research in trying to quantify the same weariness in other black men and trying to figure out ways to get them to overcome their own suspicion. African Americans are represented in medical research. Although they make up 12% of the population, they only make up 5% of clinical trial participants, according to U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And I'm actually surprised that they make up 5%. That seems high. Just bearing in mind the medical system in America and their African American interaction with it. Because you read it here, it said there is not equal representation in clinical trials, says Regina James, a director for clinical and health service research at the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities of the National Institute of Health. There's concern about their safety, she says. If they participate in the research, what does it mean? Will they be told everything? Will they be used as guinea pigs? All right, so will they be used as guinea pigs? So before I wrap this up, I'll wrap it up here. So James says physicians and researchers should focus on cultural competency and work to meet potential participants where they are. A diverse recruiting staff can be helpful as well, since people are often more comfortable with those from their same cultural background. The NIH is currently funding a study to look at how to improve recruitment and retention of minority subjects in clinical trials, she says. The importance of having diversity in clinical trials cannot be overstated. They are essential in deciding which treatment works best for each of us, she says. She added, we need to ensure that research findings are beneficial for everyone. So that's the end of that article here from USA Today, talking about we are on the anniversary of the finding out that for 40 years the American government and their doctors basically infected and watched the dangerous results of syphilis in black men from Tuskegee, Alabama. And so the question they're asking is, there's a distrust in the black community for the medical system. And so when I say understand the game and make your best effort, when you understand that game and understand that that's the game that they play, then you understand why I would say to make your best effort, all right, your best effort, because your best effort is worthwhile effort. And you have options. To me, it's important to teach people that you have options. If you're dying of cancer, you have options. And somebody might say, well, the options are not as effective. They're options. And to me, they're more effective. They're options. You exercise your option. You have option today to improve your health and avoid the medical system at all costs. You leave that stuff to emergency when you're probably incapacitated. But you have options. Again, even as they wind out that article there, they're talking about a lot of African Americans are afraid to be used as guinea pigs and to be experimented on if they sign up for clinical research. And that can be true because in any research you have a drug, and sometimes drugs can be very dangerous, and you have the placebo. So one group is getting the drug, one group is not, and they could switch it around and so forth and so on. So it becomes what they call like a double-blind study. But if I know what drugs it is, and I can affect that, I could basically look at all the African Americans and say, give them the drugs and see what the drugs does. It's possible. So I can see why somebody would say, well, they did it in the past. Why would they do it again? Right? And somebody said, things have changed, but how? Because remember, many of the doctors that were working for the Tuskegee programs and mentored into that program because it's for 40 years. Some of these guys are alive, or some of these guys now are tutors. They're professors in universities teaching new researchers how to conduct their research. So you got to think about that. So when you understand the game and understanding that, men still need to understand how some of these diseases work, and if they have people that they view as less of human being and more chimps, it would be better to experiment on them. Think about it: is you don't even get emotional over this stuff. You just understand on the mindset. If you're a doctor and you need to see the end result, or a clinical research, you need to see the end result of how syphilis works in the body, and so that you can study it and see it long term. Well, if you're looking at a group of people and say, well, they're half man, half chimp, they're the ones that to be experimented on. You're gonna get them, you're gonna grab them and experiment on them. And without even probably much thought, because if you're brought up all your life and all the information you had was that these people are less than human beings, they'd be like, well, we could use chimps, but why don't we use the people as close, halfway between chimps and human beings? Bam, and you just experiment on them. And that's what it is. So when you understand that game, you understand it's not so much just like, oh yeah, you don't think these people are out to get you. You just understand, oh no, it's just their mindset. They really can't help themselves. They really just really believe that you're less than. Make your effort. Go ahead and eat some organic kale. And if you don't trust that, go grow yourself some organic kale and eat and juice that kale. Get yourself your exercise program going. Do whatever you can to take care of your body, and don't say, I'm going to run to the doctor and rely upon drugs, because don't think that you're going to get the best care. Now, some people say things have changed, but remember, all almost all the training hospitals, almost all the training hospitals in the medical world are in the poorest communities. The training hospitals are in the poorest communities. When you have a doctor that's coming up, you don't want to train him in an affluent area. Even if they have the same type of disease, you want to train him in a war-torn area like Chicago or Detroit or Newark or Camden. The big trauma hospitals, the big training hospitals are always put in those communities. Those communities are best to put it, because that's where you're going to have most of the end result of disease. That's going to have a lot of urban population, a lot of African American population. And that's where you're going to have, you have doctors that probably are in Chicago that are probably better trauma surgeons for war-torn areas than probably the ones in Afghanistan and Iraq, because of the amount of bullet wounds, bullet wound and people coming in. So just generically how things are set up, you normally have the experiment and the new procedures being tested in the training hospitals in those black communities, in those poor communities. You go into all of these communities, the high rates of syphilis, gonorrhea, all this type of stuff. So you send the doctors there, and they're going to see more of that craziness in those neighborhoods. So historically, that's just part of it. So even though they don't set up for these clinical trials, just basically how the black community stay ignorant, they don't eat very healthy, they don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, it make them still sign up for this experiment. They just normally go through, instead of going through the federal government, they go through the emergency room, and then they get all kind of monkeypox and horse urine and all kind of weird chemicals being pumped into their system. And that's just the reality. You're trained on poor people, and you train on the urban population. And so when you understand the game, and I come to you now and say, make your best effort. There's people who be like laughing at me, and then they run into the emergency room, go get injected with some weird, vaccine or stuff that is grown on dog liver or chicken egg. And then they're looking at me like I'm strange, and I'm like, you strange. You better get off that stuff. So when you think about syphilis now, and syphilis is something that was given out to these men. The problem with that is that it's a STD. And the deeper thing is, this was the one experiment that they caught, right? They caught this one. This was the one that they were able to track down and blow to the public and realize that this was terrible. But this wasn't the old experiment that American doctors were doing on people. They had done others. They had gone to Guatemala, and you can look this up. I've covered this here before. and Hillary Clinton had to apologize over this because they went to Guatemala and they infected them, the prisoners, with gonorrhea to see the results of what gonorrhea would do. And these were American doctors again. So they did this. This is official. Also, the other experiments were many other experiments were done on the American public unsuspected. As a matter of fact, one of the famous experiments were done on Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists, the people out there near Bethesda, Maryland, they had went to this general conference and they had targeted the Seventh Adventists because they know that young people in the Seventh Adventists was very loyal to their hierarchy, and they went to them and asked them if they could experiment with, I think, smallpox, one of those diseases, in the time of the Vietnam War. And the General Conference approved it, and the young people signed up. Many young Adventists signed up for it because they trusted the leadership of the church. And you could read about that also as an official thing that the American government did. And then they experimented on their own young people. Black, white, everybody. Just take them and just start poison them and then see the results of the poison in their body. So this was not a one-off thing. This was done to American whites. This was done to Hispanic people in Guatemala officially. This was done to the Tuskegee Airmen officially. So there was more experiments that were never found out. I guarantee you much more. This is a small sampling that broke the news. So when you understand this, don't think that one day you get up and you'll be like, man, I'm tired. I just don't feel like going on the treadmill or go for a walk today. Just remember, you have another option. By the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread. And so you have another option. You can do it. You can say, well, I'm tired, I want to go on the treadmill. Or you can go ahead and go down to your regular local area to go get your shot. Or go get your medicine because it's FDA approved. And that's your choice. So syphilis, major disease here, is about a large percent of our population has this, in the millions. And it primarily cause oh yes, I wanted to say that, think about it now, the men that were given this syphilis disease, which is crazy, for doctors to do this. The men that were given this now were not treated for 40 years. So for 40 years, these men would have married, given in marriage, married, divorced, married, sleep around, all this type of stuff going on, and just spreading syphilis in the community. Just say the black community for now. And then some of these men, because it's in 1932 onward to 1970s, would even be sleeping with white women and then giving it to other white women, would go ahead and give it to other white men. And this was all managed by the federal government and managed by doctors who swear to do no harm. So, very keep that in mind. And so this disease again here it will cause various different symptoms, and it is symptoms include fever, sore throat, malaise, weight loss, hair loss, headache. Those are some of the main symptoms that it will have. It will create rashes and stuff on the body. So very observable rashes. This thing will create in your body, create various different nodes along your mucous membranes and so forth and so on. So those are the common symptoms. I guess the uncommon symptoms will be liver inflammation, kidney disease, joint inflammation. So a person could seem like they're having some type of arthritis or something like that. It will cause inflammation in the optic nerves. And also, it will basically cause other acute problems around the body. So this is normally how the disease create problem. And then if it continues for many years, it will cause even deformity because of the various inflammation that is being caused in the disease. And so are the diseases caused. So untreated, it can create some real deformity on the body, right? So this is where the problem is. So basically, what you would be have to watch it is just going from a person going to some of the benign, vomiting, nausea, headache, all that stuff, to where they start to have inflammation, to where they go from inflammation to literally deformity and just a lot of pain. And the doctors would have to watch that and then watch a person infect other people. So for me, I'm just saying to you here, if you can make your best effort, if you can understand the game and understand that there are difficulties we face. Now, first part I covered was difficulty because you understand there's thorns and thistle, and there's farmers trying to, and people working in the chemical industry trying to get rid of those thorns and thistle with various different type of chemical. But you decide, say, I'm gonna pay a little extra, I'm gonna do some gardening, I'm gonna do whatever I can to eat more naturally and make a little bit more effort to eat more slow foods instead of all these fast food. The Lord will bless you. That's part of the game. Make your best effort. The flip side of that now, coming on to the medical now, so you already have a problem. You're sick. Make an effort because you understand the game and understand that there's a lot of things that's approved, quote unquote, approved by the FDA. There's a lot of people out there that say they're doctors, but they're just experimenting, and some of them just wicked. They're just hurting their fellow human beings. Make your effort to do as much as you can, and you might make a full-fledged effort, and instead of taking 100 mgs of a drug, you're taking 10 mgs. I applaud that. I like, praise the Lord. I prefer to hear that is hear you say, I'm not going to make an effort. I'm not going to try to be healthier. I'm not going to try to take less drugs, even if you have to take the drugs for now. But make some effort. Don't just sit there and scarf down, whole burgers and eat all this chocolate, all this sweets, and then say, well, you don't have to take the drugs. Because all of these drugs that are FDA approved, the people who approve it shouldn't even give it to their dogs, much less give it to you. So when you understand the game and understand that these people, they sell their mother for money, you understand that you have to make the effort. Don't be lazy in your effort to try to take care of your health. And I understand sometimes you might make a lot of effort and the results are just not there because the body's not working with us. I understand. But make some effort. I would say if you're a farmer and you're using, a ton of, 1,000 gallons of pesticide, and you can cut that down to 100 gallons, I applaud you. Make the effort to poison people less. And to be able to, if you can cut back the fertilizer, and you can use half of the fertilizer or even a quarter of it. Somebody said, but it's still fertilizer, but I would respect the effort. Make some effort to try not to go down that road to poison yourself and poison your fellow human being. The effort is worth it because you understand that to pay the price of having somebody injecting you with syphilis and then watch you die slowly and a painful death. It was just worth the effort to just not be in that system. When you understand historically people are wicked, and you read the story about like Egypt, how Egypt destroyed the firstborn. If you have to swim across the Red Sea, just go ahead. Do whatever you can to escape that type of tyranny. Die trying. But just sit there and understand that there's human beings that are wicked, that human beings will hurt you as your fellow human being. And just not make the effort and say, hey, why? I have one life to live, I'm going to enjoy it. How is that enjoyed? Having somebody inject you with all kind of weird, Egyptian witchcraft medicine, and then tell you that it's FDA approved because they're white coats, and you believe that, and you don't make the effort, and then you suffer all your life, and then tell me that says, oh well, I have one life to live, I have to enjoy it. You're not enjoying it. Ain't nobody that is sick and just obese and all that type of stuff is telling me that they enjoy life, and it would be less enjoyable to eat either 100% plant-based or 90% plant-based and exercise and take care of the body and be in a healthier, even if it's not the healthiest, body, and stay away from drugs. How can that be the best way? I don't believe so. So I'm here and I'm going to continue encouraging you. Make some effort. Go down that road and the Lord will bless you. Let's pray to close. We thank you, Lord, again for the wisdom that you bestow upon us. We thank you for the guidance that you give us. I pray, Lord, that you may inspire us, invigorate us by thy spirit to make the effort to stay away from all these poisons and wickedness of men and try to navigate away from evil men. May you bless us, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio. God bless you, and I hope that you continue to walk with the King.